Hey guys, today is Friday, June 19th, and I wanted to come at you with a different video this time. I'm standing up, so there's going to be a lot of movement, so don't get seasick, letting you guys get used to that. I wanted to talk about my experiences thus far over the past about 2.5, 3 years as an autism mom. I know you guys have seen, well, the newer subscribers know, but like previous subscribers have seen my son Liam pop in and out of my videos, and he was officially diagnosed with autism this past December, but we've known for probably 1.5 years. So official diagnosis was just a few months ago, but I'd already prepared myself, so almost 2 years now we've known that Liam was on the spectrum. So I want to talk a little bit about my backstory and my experience with autism, and just kind of some of the signs as well for some of you guys out there, because honestly, before I had Liam, and even when he was 1 or 2 years old, I never really thought about autism. It was never something that was on my radar, and so I mean, it's kind of like one of those things, like, why would it be on your radar? When I was pregnant with him, one of the things that we were worried about, me and my OB at the time, we were worried that he might be at risk for sickle cell, because, you know, anyone of African American descent is, you know, at risk for sickle cell, because usually African Americans are carriers of the gene, so sometimes you can pass that on to your kids. So that's the only thing we were really worried about with congenital testing and things like that. Genetic testing, excuse me. So we got my blood tested and his father's blood tested, and it was no trace of passing on the sickle cell gene, or the chance was minimal. So we were in the clear, and we were worried about that. My pregnancy was very uneventful. I did suffer from depression during part of my pregnancy, but I mean, they have not linked that to autism at all. So that's one, just has nothing to do with the other. I did lose weight when I was pregnant, and that had to do with nauseousness and just feeling real funky for the first few months of my pregnancy. But it's normal also for plus size women who are already overweight, to lose weight while pregnant. So my OB was not worried about that at all. He was born right at about 39 weeks and 6 days or so, so he was right on schedule. He was 7 pounds 4 ounces, 21 inches long. I mean, like I said, everything was normal. Everything was in regular parameters. I had nothing to worry about. His first year of development was, again, pretty normal. I didn't really start noticing anything until he was at daycare, and it was our daycare director who kind of noticed that he didn't really play with the other kids a lot, and that he was, not that he was antisocial, it's just that socialization was a little bit difficult for him, and he would hit kids sometimes, and it was because he was frustrated about communication. So I did notice between 18 months and about 2 years old that he had a speech delay. So we did take him to a speech and hearing center. We got his hearing tested, and he was tested for speech issues as well. So he was diagnosed with a moderate speech delay at about 2 years old. So, you know, speech is something easy you can work through. Just get some speech therapy, get some help, he'll be fine. So we did start getting speech services for him, and then I started him at preschool a little bit early, so it was kind of my fault. Like, he was turning 3 the next month, but it was kind of a Montessori preschool, and I was really excited, and I thought he might do well in that setting. So he was there for about 3 months, and that setting did not work out for him. And the director at that preschool as well was the second one who brought up, like, you know, I think you might want to check into autism, because some of his behaviors, some of the things he's exhibiting point to autism. And I'd never thought about it. I'd really never thought about it. It was never on my radar. So I did start the process to get him tested, to figure out where I could take him to get him tested. One of the biggest issues I had with that was a lot of like, we have Eastern Kentucky University's psychology clinic, and that's ran by the graduate students there, and it's overseen by like the actual clinical psychologists, like the PhD holders. It's overseen by them. And we got in there, but again, it was like probably a 6-month wait to get in there. The University of Kentucky, they have a Casper Center, which is for autism diagnosis and resources. Their diagnostic testing for autism is $700, and at the time there was a year-long waiting list. And so, I mean, I signed up for it hoping that somehow in between then I could come up with $700, and it's self-pay, so they don't accept insurance at all, even though I have University of Kentucky's insurance because I work there. So that wasn't an option. They called us back this spring, and like I said, it just wasn't something that we could do. So last fall, we got in touch, EKU's site clinic got in touch with us, and they let us know we could begin the process for his autism diagnosis. So we did, and the report was created back in December, and we got the results and everything in about January, February. I went over it with the clinical psychologist and the grad assistant, so we talked about it. And again, everything that they said was very consistent with what I already knew. When Liam started preschool, because he was considered at risk, like they were able to give him an educational diagnosis of autism, which apparently is different than a medical diagnosis. Even though they use the same type of testing, they're going to ask the same questions of the same people. I mean, literally the results were almost exactly the same. But for medical reasons, like if your child is severe enough to get SSI for children with disabilities, or to get other services that you might qualify for in the community, your child has to be diagnosed by a clinical psychologist medically. So somebody at a facility like we went to at EKU, someone at a doctor's office, something like that. But it cannot be an educational diagnosis because they won't accept it. So just so you guys know, that was my experience with that. That's here in the state of Kentucky. I don't know how that works in other states, but I'm assuming it's similar or pretty much the same. So here are some signs of autism that you can find on WebMD, you can find on Autism Speaks. Just about any autism website are going to give you just about the same symptoms. So I wanted to list those guys for you, those for you guys, especially the ones that I started to notice with Liam. So apparently you are born with autism. It's congenital, which means that, it doesn't develop later in life. Once you have autism, you have had it, you will always have it. That's a controversial statement, the always have it part, but we're going to leave it at that for now until evidence proves otherwise. So around 18 months to 2 years old, you're going to notice speech delays. Some children at that age are not talking at all. Liam has been talking since it was age appropriate for him to do so, but we did notice that his speech was limited and that it was hard for adults to understand him and things like that. Holding and maintaining eye contact, like when you look at Liam, eye to eye like this, like, hey Liam, what are you doing? It's very hard for him to concentrate and look at you even now. So you have to kind of redirect him like, hey Liam, or sometimes you have to hold his chin gently and kind of talk to him like that if you want him to look you in the eye. Difficulty with peer interactions and friendships. I think this is the first school year where Liam actually talked about having friends, where there were kids in the class that looked for Liam and that he actually interacted with in a positive way. So I mean, since the original idea that we thought he might have autism at about 3 years old, a little bit before 3, Liam has come such a long way. His socialization, his interaction is so much better, and I couldn't be prouder. I mean, I'm so happy for him. He went from hitting and smacking kids and taking toys and doing whatever because he was unable to communicate, to being very communicative, being very empathetic. I mean, he's a great kid. He's amazing. Conversation continuity, that's still an issue that we have. If you talk to him sometimes, you have to keep asking him questions, and he has a very hard time maintaining a conversation. Like the continuous conversation that I'm having now with you guys, well, technically with myself, it's something that he'd have a huge problem with. So that we're working on. Speech therapy, social skills. We're getting help from a program that they have in our state called the Michelle P. Waiver. So they're going to actually have people come to our house and do some self-help and speech therapy with us. So that'll start to help with that too. Echolalia, which is repetitive words or like repeating words and phrases. That is something he still does on a regular basis. Like something he'll hear from a cartoon, something he'll hear from me. So you have to be very careful what you say around him and what you let him hear, because he will repeat those things. And a lot of times he won't understand what they mean, but he'll repeat them anyways. And limited interest. So this is one that's huge in our lives. Liam, about every 6 months, will have a new, what I like to call, obsession. Let me try to think about all the things that he's liked. He had an obsession with cars. He had an obsession with fruit. And, sorry, I was looking at something. And by fruit, I mean, like we got him play fruit in a kitchen, and he really liked this show called Annoying Orange. And he was all about some fruit and some food and going grocery shopping and cooking in his kitchen for like a year and a half. He was all about it. He was all about blocks. He was all about, what was he all about? Blocks and numbers and letters, and he still likes numbers and letters a lot. He moved on to Toy Story for a while. That was his last birthday theme. He moved on to something else was in between that. Scooby-Doo for a few months, and then that kind of died off. And then now he's heavy, and I'm talking about heavy, into some Thomas the Train. If you guys know anything about him from me mentioning him on social media at all, Liam loves some Thomas the Train. If you follow my Instagram, you will see we went to a day out with Thomas. He is crazy about some Thomas the Train and Thomas and his friends. So we probably got about 20 of Thomas and his friends. So that's a major thing. Routine is huge with Liam. When things get off, and he's gotten so much better at that, but like, you know, his everyday, daily, like things to do in school, that needs to stay as consistent as possible, which can be hard sometimes. Here in Kentucky, in certain counties, we've had a lot of snow days, so it's really hard to deal with that sometimes because you can't predict snow days. And when you have a snow day, like, what are you gonna do? You have to stay home. So he's pretty upset about missing school. And again, like, this goes back to the limited interest. He has a fixation on things. So like I said, when also it has something that doesn't have to do always with his interests, but sometimes he wants to do things a certain way. Like if I drive a certain way to my parents' house, he'll want to always go that way. If, I mean, just anything. Like if I go a certain way to the grocery store, he usually likes to go that way and he'll get upset if I don't. So I mean, there's a lot of things that we deal with in terms of that. But I have a lot of hope because Liam has progressed so far since, you know, we first started this. I've learned a lot about autism. I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about what I can do to help him and to be a better parent and to help him to be the best kid that he can be. So what we're going to work on in the next few months are getting him to read and write a little bit better, because those are things that are kind of difficult for him right now. And he understands letters. He knows a couple of sight words, but I mean, like the actual reading, he should be able to read by the end of kindergarten. I'd like to kind of accelerate that and have by the end of this year, so in December, him being able to read like small level 1 kind of books. So anyways, that's just my experience as an autism mom and autism as it relates to my son Liam. I'd love to hear other people's experiences, opinions, things that you've dealt with loved ones with autism. Liam is 5. So I'd also like to hear from anyone who has a adolescent child with autism, a teenage child with autism, or an adult child with autism, because I think it'd be interesting to see it in different stages. They've reworded the terminology. So what used to be moderate autism is now called level 2. So that's what Liam is diagnosed at. And I have seen research and I have heard from psychologists that it is possible to progress from one level to another. So level 1 would be the highest functioning. That'd be Asperger's syndrome, things like that. Level 2 is moderate autism, where Liam is. Level 3 is more of the non-verbal types of autism, and kind of those people who actually have never talked and who have very limited social interaction. That would be considered level 3. So like I said, it is a spectrum. Once you've met one person with autism, that's it. It's just one person with autism. That's what I've learned. And I mean, I've learned that most autistic people do have similar or almost same characteristics. But again, as with any disease, any progression of anything, you can't lump everybody all in one category. So I hope you guys found this video informative. I just wanted to share this little piece of my life with you guys. And hopefully I can help someone with recognizing the signs. And if you do feel like your child or loved one may have autism, please go ahead, take them to a psychologist and get them help, because early intervention is the best intervention. If we had not intervened as early as we did with Liam, God, I don't think we'd be where we are right now with him. I mean, he's amazing. He's an intelligent boy. He's very smart. He's getting so much better with his social skills, but it's one of those things where if you don't get help soon, then, you know, the further along it goes, the harder it is to rein them in and get them the most help that they can get. So I hope you guys have a great day. Me and Liam are off to do some grocery shopping, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.